Hello, welcome back. It's time for round 2 of UK Nationals.
Absolutely.
We're getting some more spicy heroes. I mean, we just saw our king. We have a new king now. Liam is now the king. That's how it works in the UK. Is when you're the monarch and then you lose a game of Flesh and Blood live on stream, you're no longer the monarch anymore. So that's the way it goes. That's how our system of government works in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, if you get challenged to a duel and you lose, then you step down.
It's just bad beats, y'all. It's just bad beats. However, we got a spicy old game coming up. We got Azuri and Fi. So we've got another Fi game for you. Actually, Stefano, London player, friend of ours. But who are they up against, Sean? Who is on the Azuri?
Azuri is being led by George Keys.
Yeah, and I think we had George Keys. I think George Keys was top 8 of calling, right? George Keys playing against... Did George played against Pablo in the top 8? Yes, it was, the studio is telling me in my little ear hole. It was indeed George Keys that made it to the top 4 of the calling Birmingham, lost to the one and only Pablo Pinto in the top 4. And we're going to see some cards to watch for Azuri, cards to look out for when you're playing against Azuri. Switchblade. Forgot about her little... Talk me through these cards.
So, I mean, Isolate, nice, easy blue with 3 defense, coming in with the Dominate. Now, I guess the important thing to say here is that, I mean, typically if this card is to be played, then it's an immediate target for being swapped out with Azuri's ability, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And again, we've talked about this before. It's the value, getting good value out of your blues. If you're able to pitch your blues and play your blues, you're getting really good value out of that card. So, you know, it looks like a pretty innocent 1 Dominate. Who's scared about 1 Dominate? But Azuri's ability allows to switch in something like a shakedown, for example.
Absolutely. And leave no witnesses. I mean, it's basically just a 0 cost command and conquer at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's the ability to banish a card from hand. So it's kind of like a pummel effect. It's an on hit. You have to name a color, but again, you know, against Fi, you're naming red every day of the week. You're pretty happy.
Absolutely.
And this last card, Sean, leave no witnesses. This is kind of like the CNC, right? Banish a card from not only the top of their deck but their arsenal. You're playing that against Fi, you've got a really high chance of hitting 2 reds. And when you do that, you make 2 silver tokens, which then allows Azuri to bring their equipment back into the game, right? You know, they've got their headpiece and their boots and their chest piece now. They're probably running tunic, but we'll see what they run. They can bring those cards back, which is really good. Those Leave No Witnesses, also a good card to fetch with Codex of Frailty as a 0 cost 1 card play.
Yeah, Azuri really presents some, I guess, on hits with some awkward, with some awkward blocks, right? You're expecting you may need some defense reactions in order to be able to cope with that, which is not typically something that we see Fi run an awful lot of.
But the other thing that Fi can do is Fi can just say, you can throw 6s at me every day of the week. I ain't bothered. I'm going to hit you for 15, 16, 17 damage. All that disruption, you know, if they can get the disruption through, that's great. Cards like Shakedown, that's great. But just raw hits, raw damage, banishing cards off the top of the deck. Fi's deck, you know, they can keep going. They've got a lot of grid red cards. They run a very low number of blues. They're probably going to be able to come at you with some strong aggression, try and overpower this Azuri.
See, our friend Steelfur there is calling you out for ninja bias.
Look,
but I think I'd just like to say, I think we treat all heroes equal.
I don't pick the games. I just cast the games with my good friend Sean here. Push the point. We let them pick the games for us. They want to pick 2 ninja. We let them pick 2 ninja. If they want to put 2 Fi games in a row, we put 2 Fi games in a row because it's an opportunity to show you this Azuri, this top 4 calling Birmingham player.
And we looked at the cards to watch for 5 before that first game. So we're looking at Salt the Wound, maybe even Art of War. We might even see.
Yeah, I think Art of War is gonna. I think that Stefano is gonna have a lot of space to actually play out those Art of Wars. You know, if George is not putting on too much pressure, if George is just doing sort of, you know, bread and butter Azuri stuff, Stefano's probably gonna have a little bit of room to maneuver. So he probably will have the space to play on Art of War. So probably want to have those in the deck. It's also, but he does need to be careful because those Art of Wars could get easily banished through some of the contract effects that Azuri often runs. We do see a Death Note notebook on Stefano's side of the field. I'm not sure that's strictly tournament legal. Trying to attempt to write your opponent's name in the Death Note, but seems like George is doing okay. So, you know, we'll see how the game pans out. If we see George fall to the ground, we all know what's going on over here. So just shuffling the decks up, Sean. Like we saw Fi in the last game when the George Rogers didn't really make much headway in that game, though, did he?
No, it was a tough one against Lexi, though, right? Lexi, I think George essentially had gone almost too low in life total to be able to use his life as a resource to be able to hit back at the Lexi. And what did we see in the end? I think three of the Codex of Frailty, two three of a kind as well, two rain razors. Oh, it was just
played out their really good, powerful cards.
Absolutely.
And Vi was just not able to really get into the game. Did have some choices where they had Warmongers, played Warmongers. So I saw someone in the chat saying maybe playing the Warmongers turn 1 might not be the best move. That's an interesting one. We also see Stefano running the Mask of the Pouncing Lynx here rather than the Mask of Momentum, probably thinking to himself, George is probably going to run a more defensive, controlling game. And if George is going to be blocking, committing a lot of blocks, maybe Mask isn't as useful as you would like. So just being able to get one massive turn in with Pouncing Lynx, that's pretty good.
Absolutely. And we see there's a Syrian Emberblade. So different to the first game, different to what George was running.
And I like this into a more controlling hero. Just, presenting 3 damage instead of 2 with the Kanachi. And also, kind of the important thing is if you're not running Mask of Momentum, Kodachis are a bit worse because really the Kodachis are enabling the 3 cards in a row. If you're running Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, then Emberblade's a little bit better too, because Emberblade is a draconic card, so it makes it easier to fit your Phoenix Flames.
And here we go, George kicking off the game with a Nerve Scalpel.
Yeah, interesting boots. I think George probably is running a contract. I think if we remember George's previous builds, does run a lot of contract cards. Do see some more go wide stuff, which is going to be good. He is going to have to put on some aggression to Fi, try and get Fi's life total down enough so that Fi has to start committing cards from hand. Can't just keep every card in his deck. Stefano does take the first Nerve Scalpel. Spider's Bite, when this hits, attack action cards, they block for 1 less the next time you defend with them, so incentivized to block this because Stefano will have a lot of non-attack action cards in his hand and he will want to commit blocks on this turn. He has drawn into 2 blues going first. The one thing about the Searing Emberblade is with its 2 costs, you do kind of need blue cards to enable those turns. Drawing 2 turn 1 is not great because you're probably on quite a low number of blue cards in the deck, so he might be running as I've seen some decks run as few as 12, which I think is too few. A lot of decks run 15, but that does mean that Stefano's now down to maybe 13 blue cards in the deck, which is not too good. But we do see these drawn into another one there.
And we saw that Shakedown come out. That's one of our cards to watch. That's come out quite early and has had to be played to the attack to the combat chain as opposed to being swapped in with Azuri's ability.
I think. It would be a good card because of its sort of pummel-like effect. It is a 2-card combo, but also if George is running less stealth cards, because he does really need to get the attack reaction of the stealth card. Though again, he does have the boots, so he's going to commit some blocks here. Bit risky in case Stefano does have the Ancestral here.
And we see a Warmongers come out.
Yeah.
Early doors.
But Warmongers...
blocking at this stage.
I mean, Warmongers against Fi is kind of... I don't know. I don't really see the purpose.
Maybe it's just room in the deck, right? Maybe he just doesn't have a lot of room in the deck.
Yeah, maybe he just main decks.
So he just has to leave it in there. He's expecting to come up against a lot of Lexi.
It allows George to run a few more options in the dagger slots. You see here he's got Nerve Scalpel.
Yeah.
Can we actually get Nerve Scalpel up on the screen just to remind us what that one does? Apologies for me forgetting, because we're just getting a kind of thank you very much, studio. So when this hits, it's when they defend with one or more reaction cards, which is good, because Fi does run a couple of reactions, Ancestral Empowerment. We're just seeing sorry, I'm not talking too much about this Fi turn because this is standard Fi stuff here, everybody. Just gonna play. You're gonna see a big sea of red on the 5 players side of the table. But George shuts that down and actually manages to keep 2 cards in hand. So that's actually pretty decent. He managed to... he did take some damage. We just haven't updated. Apologies, everybody. Down 35. So took 5 damage. Oh, a big chunk of change. But did keep 2 cards in the card in Arsenal.
Yeah. and Fi, or rather Stefano, using Fi's ability as well to bring in that Phoenix Flame from the graveyard, just to push through that extra damage. See George coming back with an E-Strike. As we said in that first game, such an efficient card, isn't it?
Yeah.
Two card hand for 7. Wonderful. You can see an Art of War there in Stefano's hand.
Yeah, Stefano probably having a look, seeing if he can make something with this Art of War.
And a Lava Burst, maybe?
If he does, it's just that he needs the resources with the Art of War. That's the thing when you're running by, you really need for the Art of War turn, you really need the blue just to set up the Art of War to get it going. I don't quite think he's got kind of an awkward hand here and not too much go again.
Stefano taking 7 there.
He's going to pitch it. No, he's going
Coming
to
in with
pitch the
Mountain
Lava
Anger.
Burst. Yeah,
So if this
he's got a
hits,
bit.
his
Yeah.
next Draconic Chain Link that he controls gains +1 attack.
So the thing here with Stefano is that he's got a Lava Burst, a Snatch, and a Spreading Flames, and an Art of War. So he's actually only got 1 card with Go Again at the moment. But he's not going to be able to get up to 4 Chain Links. I can't quite recall what he's going to ask, but I don't think he's going to be able to get up to 4 Chain Links with what he's got at the moment, unless he's got something in the arsenal that I'm forgetting. But he's probably just going to try and get that Art of War into the arsenal, which is a great place to have it. Does need to be careful about Leave No Witnesses. But he does have the equipment block still to shut down and Leave No Witnesses.
Well, he's pitched the Lava Burst here. Would you say that indicates to George that maybe he doesn't quite have the resources in order to
it's
be able
not
to go?
it doesn't
It gives a lot of
either he
information.
doesn't have the resources to go really wide, or he doesn't have 4 chain links. He's not able, he doesn't have 3 chain links to then play the Lava Burst. Yeah.
Equally though, he did take 7 in order to be able to produce this turn, so George
Yeah, of course you take.
Take
Sean,
those
it's fine. You take, so you don't think about what your opponent did. Look what happened to George. George tried blocking. It was a disaster. So yeah, George just doing a nice 3 block using. He's using his flick knives here. So not gonna do anything spicy with the flick knives. Fab Chaos was saying maybe doing something cool with the combo and the flick knives, but doesn't look like that's gonna happen this time.
Sear and Emberblade coming in for 3 here,
using
the
flame scale furnace.
to
so
grab the resources. Very nice. And Assault the Wound, which will be coming in for just 2
just 2 here, but he's really just using this to clear the arsenal.
Yeah.
Has
For the
cleared out a few. Should be pretty confident of drawing into some go again cards. He's cleared out quite a few of his non go again cards though on that turn. Made something happen there. Pushed through a point of damage. Was able to set up the Art of War in the arsenal, which is going to be really good for him. But we go back to George. We see a pretty spicy card in his hand there, don't we?
Absolutely. Codex of Frailty is going to be coming in here.
I think he's just thinking about how he wants to play this. Can't remember what he had in the arsenal.
Okay.
Does pitch it, yeah. I think the reason why he did that is because he doesn't seem to want to commit. I think he's just thinking, I'm going to draw a card from the ponder. I'm still going to have a card in hand, so I'm going to kind of waste the card draw. And there's the other thing that maybe
Looking for a scrap.
What am I trying to say here? Because Stefano is running the Ember Blade, the Frailty token is no good, and then there's also the fact that he probably just doesn't have the card in the grave that he really wants to fetch with the Codex of Frailty at the moment. He really wants to be fetching the sort of 0 cost, Leave No Witnesses maybe. Stefano does get good value out these.
Plays out the Flick Flack, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
taking
So
1
like,
there.
if he'd played the Codex, he'd still have the Leave No looking for scrap in the arsenal. It's kind of just a little bit awkward there. So yeah, use it as your pitch card. You don't have to play your power card sometimes. That's what I was thinking with the other term, the Art of War. Like, you can always pitch the Art of War. That's the thing that's good about it. It's a yellow.
We see another Art of War in
Okay,
Stefano's
this is
hand
a
here.
really interesting one here because Engulfing Flame Wave, if it hits, you can look at the top card of your deck and reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an attack action card with cost less than the number of Draconic Chain Links, Stefano currently has 1 Draconic Chain Link. He can banish it and play it. So because of Stefano's got so many 0-cost cards in the deck, if he hits a 0, he can banish it and play it. But the good thing is that he does have the Art of War to potentially go over the top here if George blocks for 5, but he's probably going to block for 6 because it's such a easy thing for him to do.
And
he
there
does.
there we see it coming in for 6.
A Shred and a Command and Conquer. So that's the thing there with the difference between coming in for 5. When you come in for 3, it's so easy for them to block 3.
Just go over the top.
He does have two. Did have 2 Art of Wars there.
So he pitches the Art of War to be able to just swing in with the Ember Blade.
Yeah,
just
now
for
he can
3.
fetch the Phoenix Flame for 1 and just push a little bit of extra damage here.
Yeah.
So not quite what Stefano probably wanted, but did get 2 blocks out of the Azurian, did push a little bit of damage through. He's still sitting pretty on 30. Life plays 30 here, so.
But he still sits with an Art of War in his arsenal, right? You know, he's still sitting pretty here. He's still able to push through a bit of damage. He left himself open just in case George didn't block. So, you know, you've got to be dynamic, respond to how your opponent blocks out your attacks.
Looks like another
and
2.
Stefano left himself open to that.
Looks like potentially another 2 blue hand from Stefano. We'll see in a second. No, actually looking interesting. Okay, so just coming in for 1 here, letting this hit. Stefano probably not plan on blocking anyway. And there we see the Death Touch.
Second.
It's a really good card to play off for blue. Spider's Bite costing 2, coming for 1, and then Death Touch costing 1 and coming in for 6. Crazy value. One cost deal 6, and a super good on hit of being able to give any kind of disease token, frailty, inertia, or blood rot pox.
That's some Shadowpeed efficiency there. 1 for 6.
So
Lovely.
Stefano probably a bit stuffed here, to be honest, because he can't really block this because the Spider's Bite has hit. He does have the reaction in hand.
Stefano
He's
having a
thinking
think here.
about it, but I don't really think like he has much of a choice here unless he wants to commit some equipment. 2 cards and equipment seems like a pretty poor deal.
Stefano's having a real think about this.
got
We
a
can see a
pretty awkward-
Ravenous Rabble in hand.
Yeah.
We can see
The trouble
see
is
an-
that and that ancestral doesn't
Ancestral
really
as
play. You
well.
can't really play. You can't play ancestral on the.
What's going on here then, Trip? We see an attack react, throwing those boots into the mix.
Yeah, the boots. Giving it a go again. Can we see the boots on the screen? I guess it's any assassin card, the boots. And then following up with the lead no witnesses. Target assassin attack action card. Yep, that's good to see. When it hits, you can
Gets go again
get go again, and now he's going to really threaten the arsenal.
with that leave no witnesses.
But this is probably where Stefano will probably commit the Tiger and the Tiger Stripe Shuko and the Flame Scale to shut this down. He gets
Because-
1 per game, and this seems like a really good opportunity to do it because he's got the resources to play out the Art of War. And he's just considering.
Well, the Spider's Bite hit, right? So
Yeah, he needs to be really careful. If he blocks with a 2 block here, it actually pretty
goes
bad.
through. So that Spider's Bite coming in at the start, it really, makes you have to think about your blocks
He
further
almost
down the
blocked
line.
with the Rabble there. The Rabble will not be enough.
Stefano put into a bit of a pickle here.
Yeah. Yep. All
Okay.
good though. Blocks for 5, which is fine because I think the Ancestral, you can't banish it to Art of War, and he had the Rabble, so you can't even really play it on the Rabble. Gets the Blood Rot Pox, so George just deciding to try and push an additional 2 damage, but Stefano might actually just sort of ease off a little bit here. Doesn't need to play a big turn, can wait a bit until he has a better hand, because this was a bit of an awkward one. We'll see how he decides to play this out.
Okay, so we've got a brand with Cinderclaw here.
Yeah.
Red, yellow.
As a yellow, he's probably then going to play the Rabble, make the Rabble Draconic, then probably pitch the blue, come in with the Ember Blade, and then finish with a Phoenix Flame. He might even keep the blue here to pay for the Blood Rot Pox, but I think he'd rather push 3 damage with the blue.
So the Rabble reveals a red, which means coming in for 4. George here taking
One.
1.
Having a little think here. Yeah, so he does decide to sue because this is representing 5 damage because the Phoenix Flame is going to get the +1 from the Tiger Stripe Shuko. And it just allows Stefano to have a little bit of a reset. Get his commit, got 2 blocks out of the Azuri, which is great. I mean, Azuri's pretty happy blocking with 2 cards too, to be honest. But
so Stefano having to do some blocking here, not able to come back with, these super wide turns that we would normally expect from a Fi.
yeah,
But still just poking through.
George
1 damage here, another damage
but
there.
it can shift on a dime. When the Art of War turn, if Stefano draws into a really good Art of War turn, he can really push a lot of damage. Remember, he's got the pouncing links, so he can get really good value out of an Art of War turn. Does draw into a defense react. These defense reacts are interesting. Like we're seeing a lot of 5 players running the defense reacts. They do good stuff, but it is disrupting his big hands.
And is that an isolate that is played there? So we've got
Yeah,
isolate
so this
has been
one has
played to
dominate.
dominate, but then this is where the defense reaction, may come in helpful here. George is very much threatening that he could.
He can just cover. He can basically cover an extra 1 damage because he can still only block 1 card from hand. Though I guess when the no, you're right, Sean. Because when he swaps the card in, he can then play the defense reaction. So
so he's got it covered up.
Block,
yeah, he's got it covered up. Okay, so he's going to defend with the lava burst. He's going to say to George, "All right, let's see what you're going to do." George's quite happy there. He's just going to Arsenal.
Yeah, that's the only trouble with the whole. Yeah, I think you do just push DT. That's what I would do anyway. Why play into their game plan, right? Like why slow the game down when that's exactly what Zuri wants? You just want to go over the top of the Azuri and you want it as quickly as possible. So it's an interesting strategy, and again in that situation, you like Sean was saying, it's like, oh good, we've got the attack react from Azuri covered with a defense react, but then George is just like, nope, just not going to play him. So and then now you've got a defense react in hand, which is kind of useless. You don't even have Kadachi to pitch it to.
And we see a trap here played by George as a defense react.
So this is the inertia. So Stefano's going to lose his
Frailty.
Art of War. Is it Frailty?
Frailty.
Inertia would have been so good. But this Frailty is not going to do much. Going to make Ember Blade come in for 2 instead of 3. Not going to affect the Arsenal because we know that's an Art of War.
Frailty trap. These traps, they came in with outsiders. I've seen a few played, right? Mostly Frailty trap.
Frailty Trap is just really good value because against Kadachis, you're essentially blocking 5. They've got a card from Arsenal that's an attack reaction, and they swing with a weapon. It's kind of blocking 5. If they've got Kadachis and an attack action from Arsenal, it's like blocking 6. So it's really really good.
Oofed. And that Frailty does then mean that the Ember Blade is just coming in for 2. 2 go again, but 2 nonetheless. Stefano passes here. So Stefano finished his turn there with a card in hand and a card in Arsenal.
Yeah. Callum
and
saying
still keeps that sink below in hand.
D-reacts the only way being Azuri. Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I'm really interested to see how it plays out because we're seeing Fire playing a lot more defense reactions these days, and I think that sort of it reflects the fact that a lot of heroes are running disruptive cards to beat Lexi, and those cards also happen to be really good against Fire a lot of the time. So we'll see it in this game, and we did see in the previous game, even though George Roger lost the game against Lexi, they did get really good value out of their flick flack into a combo card. And if you can play the sinks out, you can fix a hand. So I do like that as well. The thing is, that George, if he is given a little bit of space, which you do give them space by blocking with defense reaction sometimes, it does allow them to do this more go wide stuff with Azuri, which can get really really annoying for
and awkward, right?
For Fire. But the thing is that this game is still very much in motion. We've got 2 heroes kind of sort of trading blocks, trading attacks, kind of just chipping away at each other's health. And Stefano does have a much bigger explosive potential as Fi to suddenly put someone who was sitting pretty on like 15, 16 life, suddenly they're way down.
Yeah,
While
and be threatening
George has a
lethal.
lot less explosive potential, but can just keep chipping and chipping and chipping.
Well, that like go wide, maybe turn from George from an Azuri player is much easier to pull off when you have those Black Tech Whisperers in play as well, right? But they're currently sitting in the graveyard.
Yep, hasn't been able to play any contract cards to fetch, to create any silver, to create to create anything. Stefano got a bit of an interesting proposition here. Can block this out with one of his 2 blocks and the sink. I wouldn't commit the Shuko for this, but it does cost 2 cards, and then maybe just push back with a 0 for 3. Again, pushing George back down, but maybe George just commits 1 card block, and he's more than happy to work with 3 cards. He's also going to have an Arsenal here, so more than happy to work with 4 cards, and that's going to be interesting what George can do with 4 cards. Definitely going to be able to keep a card in Arsenal, potentially a defense react.
Do you think Stefano maybe he almost couldn't really use the sink below? You know, as we were saying, it's there to be used once Azuri's done the old swap-a-rooney. And, he just wasn't able to use it that way.
This can be the classic bit of a trap when you do put the Art of War in the Arsenal, is that you never want to lose it. Yeah, exactly, DT. It's kind of like he's playing, because he's kind of denied himself the Arsenal this game by just being like, okay, I'm going to play to a big Art of War turn, which he wants to do because he's got the pouncing links, he's kept the Shuko, he's still got his boots in case he draws into a snatch or something, or an Art of War, or an Enlightened Strike. So he's got a plan, and that plan does involve Art of War, and he did have to pitch one of his Art of Wars, so he's only got 1 left in deck, but it does mean that he's not been able to do anything with his Arsenal. And when you're running defense reactions and you give up the Arsenal, it's like, that's really bad.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Why would Stefano go looking through George's graveyard? Yeah,
He's probably looking at like potential codex targets. Yeah. So like thinking, because he's trying to protect his Arsenal here, but we know there's a leave no witnesses in grave. So sooner or later, George is going to be able to play that leave no witnesses out.
Okay, so Stefano takes the 1 damage presented by George here with the Spider's Bite, and then comes in with that red Isolate for 3.
Can cover 6
dominate
here,
on the
though.
Isolate. He's got cards in hand. He can do the swap, but again, we can see that flick flack. So defense reaction, it's there. It's there if he needs it.
But he's got another Art of War in hand, and he's not really got much he can do with it.
And we see George here activate Azuri with that face down card.
Yeah.
Stefano has an opportunity here to respond with an instant.
Here's
and
a
we see a shakedown.
shakedown.
And there's the response to flick flag. So the exact reason why Stefano has brought these defense reacts into the into this matchup.
It's just that they're so much worse when you're not playing them from the Arsenal. That's the best thing about defense reactions. You can play them from the Arsenal, right? Keep a 4-card hand. He's got an Art of War in the Arsenal, an Art of War in hand. We're just seeing Stefano having a little think.
Oh,
What?
DT, please don't shut up. We're enjoying your you're like 3rd man on the commentary team here.
My initials are also DT, so I'm just pretending that you are me in the chat. Giving double casting essentially, so chat casting and IRL casting. So Stefano's got a really awkward hand. He's got an Art of War in the Arsenal. He's got an Art of War hand. He's got a card without go again, so he can't even do something into Searing Emberblade pitching the Art of War. I think he just has to keep a card in hand, which is really bad. I mean, keeping the snatches, maybe there's a world where he goes snaps into Searing Emberblade, but that feels pretty not what he wants to be doing. I think he just needs to pitch the Art of War and swing Emberblade and just keep the snatch.
Yeah, do you think Stefano hasn't been able to have the big pop-off turns here? You know, with
we've not seen one, so.
No. But like, that's what 5 brings to the table. Typically, that's sort of what we're expecting from a 5. And yet, either George has been able to tempt blocks out of Stefano, or Stefano's just unfortunately
But
not been able to make use of his arsenal.
this is the thing about having defense reacts in the deck, is you're basically saying, I'm going to block with a card every turn. And I just think that Fire would rather not be blocking with a card for a lot of the game. In the end game, the defense reactions are really good, like in the late game when you're trying to survive. But this early, they've come up at a really awkward time where Stefano just wants to be putting pressure on at the moment. He keeps drawing into these defense reacts that aren't just aren't doing much for him. It's a really interesting
what he's
play.
saying here is, I need to get this Art of War out of here.
He's going to +1.
I mean, what would you do?
I wouldn't do this. I'd pitch for Searing Emberblade, and then I would keep the Snatch in hand.
But if you,
but he's going
have
to
played out
he's
the
gonna
Art of War, what
into
are
his
you?
thing. This is pretty bad. Okay, so at least he's going to be able to develop a card in Arsenal here, but this is using...
I mean, a bit of a shrug there from Stefano looking at his card draw.
Yep.
His
So he's going to play out the attack and then develop the Arsenal, but not good. Not good. Coming in for 5 at least.
You know, George.
Yeah, it was. I agree, DT. I agree. I don't know what I would do, but I don't know if it would be that one. But I mean, he had to do something. There's Lions, but I think just being like, Snatch is not a bad card. Keep it in hand. You never know what you're going to draw into next turn. You draw into next turn into a blue and some gas, and you can always do this next turn. Though we did have the CNC, so it would have been threatened by that. So maybe, maybe not too shabby. Maybe just let the Art of War go at that point. Just be like, it's not happening. Need to change the game plan. Need to change my plan.
Need to adapt. Absolutely.
This combination of E-Strike and defense reaction, Art of War and defense reaction, where you want the Art of War in Arsenal, but you also want the defense reactions in Arsenal. It's just not meshing in this matchup, especially when George has so many ways of threatening the Arsenal. Really rough.
We see George here coming in. He's got a four card hand. 4 card? 3 card.
And we know that George has ways of going wide. He was running looking for scrap. He's running E-Strike. We're going to be able to see if he's going to be able to do something here with this, because this can sometimes be the thing with Azuri where you might have 4 cards, but what can you do with them? It just means, I guess, you can swing 2 daggers like he's doing now, which is fine. Oof, it is a bit of a rough one. It's a bit sort of cagey at the moment. And actually, if you look at Stefano's hand, it's actually kind of spicy for a Art of War. Though I guess he would have drawn into the sink this turn instead of maybe that blue. So maybe it's not so good. It's all changes the game, doesn't it? Changes the game, but like
so obviously we have talked a lot about Stefano. You know, he's inevitably having a rather. You know, it's not quite going to plan.
It's just because George is playing it clean as heck. He's just doing great turns. They're not flashy. He's not blowing fire out of the water. He is just swinging his dagger, doing something awkward for fire every single turn. And the best part is he's doing it with 3 card hands, with 2 card hands. Yeah. He's just doing nice blocks against fire. And he's just doing good stuff. Yeah, we see Sensor here. Big fan of Sensor. But it does get shut down.
Why are you a big fan of Sensor, Mr. DT?
When Sensor hits, it allows you to name a card, and then they can't play that card until the end of their next turn. That of course means against fire you can actually name Phoenix Flame, so they can't play the Phoenix Flame, which is kind of interesting. But it also against fire they run a lot of similar cards that you'd be able to name. I love Sensor. Got it in my Ira deck. It's a 1 for 5 that blocks for 3.
Oof. Sensor is so cool.
It is cool.
DT
it also
agrees.
has incredible art, which is a big part of the appeal. I mean, George is running Give and Take and Sensor, 2 of my favorite cards. George does radiate presence. He's just so cool, calm, and collected.
He's just... Oh, and we see another Frailty Trap coming out here. So that's a Ancestral Empowerment allowing Stefano to draw a card.
Yeah, it's still going to go over the top because it wasn't played from Arsenal.
Yeah.
We do have the nice blue, so it is going to be able to play Engulfing Flame Wave. So if this hits, it will enable a 1 cost or a 0 cost to be played from the top card of the deck. Trouble is, we're seeing so many defense reactions in Stefano's deck that this Engulfing is not quite as spicy as I would normally want it to be.
Not as threatening as... Oh, and another Frailty Trap there.
Stefano feeling pretty frail right now, pretty rough. When he finally gets a turn and George happens to have all of his defense reactions at the right time.
How frail are you feeling?
Too frail. That's how
Too
I'm
frail.
feeling.
Fi is practically aging. He's so frail right now.
Poor Fi.
Poor Fi.
Well, not poor Fi, because
Rip.
George is playing Azuri like a pro. He's playing Azuri like top 4 calling Birmingham player would play it, and it's great to see.
And that's what we're seeing in this room, right? We've got Matt Folkes, we've got George Rogers, we've got Sammy Braben, we've got champions in the room, and George is acting like one of them right now.
Yeah, we do. Pro Tour 2 champion Matt Folkes, calling Birmingham champion Sammy, UK Nationals champion George Rogers. We got some winners of tournaments playing today, which is always great to see. We are one of the lucky countries to have 128 player nationals. Believe it's Australia, Germany, United Kingdom, and Canada. And we really appreciate being able to up the numbers. So big thanks to LSS for allowing us to have more numbers this year, because there's so many people in the UK that want to play this game, and being able to go to nationals and play up against these great players is such a big appeal of the game, knowing that you have this as the culmination of your competitive year to work towards is really motivating.
Absolutely. So we see George here coming in with a Codex of Frailty, and he's put a Death Touch into his arsenal.
Yeah, because he's got the tunic with which to play the Death Touch, the one resource off the tunic. So he's pitched a yellow to the Spider's Bite. Doesn't want to fetch the Leave No Witnesses because Stefano doesn't have an arsenal right now.
So I guess Codex of Frailty, it just allows you to be able to assess your opponent's board state and decide what to...
The other thing, of course, is that Stefano will need to put a card from his grave into his arsenal, and he must discard a card, which is another reason, why we were talking about how the fact that Stefano was keeping Art of War in his arsenal for so long was a bit of a, oh, do you really want to be doing that? But the thing is, if you don't have a card in arsenal, when you get hit with a Codex, you basically have to, discard a card from hand.
Yeah.
And although you get to put a card from your grave in, it's going to have -1 attack for the Codex. It's interesting. Yeah, Bob, I'm a big fan of give and take into give and take. The endless combo, really, really good. Yeah, Death Touch here. Just it's a bit like the Lexi players fetching the Blood Rot Arrow, and it's just being able to push such a big chunk of change, like big chunk of damage, big chunk of change over the top. But Stefano does manage to get around that turn, but it's just because Stefano's not being able to put on so much pressure, it's allowing George to develop these sort of like above average turns that normally Fine would be putting on so much pressure that Zuri maybe can't push through these kind of 3-4 card hands, but he's able to do a lot. We see the third red engulfing flame wave. Oh no, this would be the one that Stefano fetched from the grave, so there's probably still another one in the deck. He might actually only be running 2. It's not always a 3-up card because of the 2 cost. It doesn't really mesh with the Searing Emberblade very well.
We see a Sink Below played out here by George.
Yeah,
from Arsenal.
Yep, George has got it. Play your defense reacts from Arsenal. It's they're a lot better when you do them that way.
So George covering up that first Draconic attack.
Stefano needs to build towards something. He knows he's got 2 Art of Wars left in the deck. He really needs to kind of I think it's not the worst idea to sort of take your foot off the pedal a little bit, do a little bit more blocking here, and try and build towards that big turn. Like, he's got Pouncing Links for a reason. He needs to use it. He needs to get off a big wide turn where he can go over the top. Keep pushing these little bits of damage against George, forcing blocks where George maybe doesn't want to commit 2 cards here, so you might take a little point of damage, goes down a little bit lower. Yeah, I think they are getting... I don't think George is getting too low. He has been blocking a lot, to be fair. But he has also been fetching cards back with Codex. Stefano's probably getting quite low.
I mean,
when he comes around to the next... When he pitched an Art of War quite early, so when we see that come back round, we'll know.
But when Stefano was looking through his graveyard for that Codex, for the card to pull for Codex, there wasn't... It was pretty full.
Yeah.
Graveyard's looking
The thing
pretty
about
full
Fi
here.
is that they run such a high density of red cards. Even when they're getting to their late game, they still have a lot of
Still got a
gas.
threat.
And Stefano has played a lot of his defense reactions by now, so his deck should be a little bit higher quality to be a bit more aggressive.
Yeah. And speaking of aggressive, we can see a shred there in George's hand.
He's just going to keep
actually going to pitch.
But he's just going to keep pitching those shreds because right now it doesn't really matter. Stefano's got a bit too much health. He just wants those to be there when Stefano goes down really low, and then he can just, when Stefano has to block, he can use that to win. We also see Reinforce the Line being played here. I think this might just be a bit too high a density of defense reaction. I know people in the chat were saying defense reaction's really good for Fi against Azuri, but I think if you've got Reinforce the Line, if you've got Sink Below, and you've got Flick Flack, like what game are you playing as Fi at that point? Like what do you, especially if you're running Pouncing Links and Art of War, what are you trying to align? Are you trying to pitch stack something maybe? Try and work for your defense reactions so you reach a point, because Stefano just keeps drawing into these defense reactions, and they are kind of doing stuff, but they just, I just feel like George Azuri that plays that game much better than Fi does. We'll see. We'll see.
So George has fetched a Command and Conquer here off of the Codex. So second, Stefano's going to stick a card in his arsenal and then immediately see that Command and Conquer.
He does have the shutdown with the Reinforce the Line pretty good, at least against Command and Conquer. That is really good because it's not a defense reaction. It can be played. So it can 2-card block this CNC. So we'll probably fetch something that he can fetch.
And obviously, we've talked about Fi. We've seen the reigning UK national champion bring Fi to this year's UK nationals. But what do you think from the perspective of bringing an Azuri to your UK nationals? Do we think that this is a
well, it eats up Lexi, and there's a ton of Lexi, so I think it's a really good a good one. Decides to keep the Flick Flack rather than the Blaze Headlong. I'm going to assume here that he's going to play out the card from Arsenal the next turn, put the Flick Flack in, and that will be the turn. Interesting choice.
I'm gonna block with this.
Oh, we got hit by the Spider's Bite, of course. Apologies. So that attack action is actually only blocking for 1 at the moment, +4 from the Reinforce the Line that is covered. So yeah, that was so awkward. Actually did need to commit the equipment there just to save the card in Arsenal. At that point, I kind of feel like just, I don't know. I mean, you've got the Flick Flack, so you've got to get something in there.
Blaze Headlong.
Going to produce a attack for 3 here, -1 from the Frailty. And then he's just going to get this Flick Flack into Arsenal.
Seen a lot of value from these frailties as well, right? It's just constantly -1. Searing Emberblade, -1.
He's just not really even been able to play the Searing Emberblade. It's just, yeah, block with the Leave No Witnesses. I think he already had one engraved, so it's not too bad for Stefano getting that into the grave there. And like I said, maybe Stefano trying to play to a more defensive line here, waiting to draw back into that Art of War to try and do something with it. Should have a blue and an Art of War together, which is good. And hopefully that will do some work. Both heroes have just been trading blocks, taking a little bit of damage. Stefano taking a little bit more, George taking a little bit less. But they're both creeping ever closer downward.
We've got 14 minutes left on the round. It seems like George is just doing it a bit more efficiently.
Well, it's like we said earlier, Sean, like George can just play a 2-card, 3-card hand much better than Stefano can, but Stefano can play a 4-card, 5-card hand much better because George has only got limited ways of giving stuff go again. He's not been able to fetch any silver to bring back his boots, but he is developing these CNCs here, and this is really bad because he's got a Flick Flack in Arsenal.
He just hasn't, like George hasn't played or hasn't played to the strategy of presenting an awful lot of contract cards though, right? So he's not really, he's used that Black Tech Whisperers fairly early in the game.
He's been playing the Leave No Witnesses, but Stefano has had a lot of defense reactions in this game, which might not be something that George was expecting. Was probably thinking, well, one of these Leave No Witnesses is going to make it through.
Yeah.
And George, you can see, has changed tack. So rather than fetch Leave No Witnesses, when he's seen that Stefano has got so many defense reactions,
He's fetching the Command and Conquers.
He's
to be able to get
instead been
through.
fetching the Command and Conquers, yeah, because he knows that he's going to get good hits on those. Or the
And then I guess as a result of having more cards in his hand at the end of Stefano's turn, he's then able to present the Spider's Bite, which then makes the Command and Conquer come through even more deadly.
yeah, so probably a little bit of disagreement here because Stefano put down 2 cards to block. They were actually blocking for 4, not for 6, because of the Spider's Bite hit. Now it's actually only blocking for 5, I believe. So Stefano going to just take that all back, it seems. Not committed all those cards. And is now down to 9. I actually don't dislike that. I think actually Stefano maybe can do something with this hand. George on a lot of health, though.
I mean, we saw George Rogers in the first game. He got down to single digit life, and then he was like, "Right, this is it. This is my turn. This is where I need to turn this around now."
Yeah, and then
So
we can see the Rebel.
Stefano very much coming in with I guess a similar approach. Let's see a Rabble coming in for 4.
George going to probably just shut this down very
Fake
easily.
the scene, yeah.
Like we were saying, Stefano kind of just playing to
Bottom
try
decks that.
and get to this Art of War, so that turns like this become a lot more efficient. He's just not denting George. He needs to push some damage through on this turn and then use his remaining health to try and get one big turn left.
We saw Stefano was able to, just poke through damage here, bit of damage here, but it's not really been able to have that. That hasn't happened for.
It's just
for
these
a
3.
few rounds
They're
now.
just. Oh yeah, it does take a little. He's going to take this one because
2 card ban.
can't activate links on Emberblade. Has to be an attack action. Will be able to fetch Phoenix Flame for free. The Brand with Cinderclaw making the Rabble Draconic.
Activates Phi.
If this hits, it could potentially be a. He might choose to just go for it with the pouncing links. Oh, he might actually choose to. He
E-strike in
he
hand,
knows
so.
that the snatch is on the top of the deck, so he might choose here to E-strike, draw a card, Snapdragon Scalers into the snatch that he knows is on the top of the deck. That might be enough to push a little bit of damage through, force a whole hand block from George, and then maybe Stefano can get some space here to do something. So yeah,
So there it is.
it's a good line.
So E-strike.
Does mean
Draw a
that
card.
Stefano no longer has a Phoenix Flame in the grave. It's now at the bottom of his deck. We haven't seen yet any other ways of fetching Phoenix Flames. Could potentially fetch it with Mask of Pouncing Links, but yep, doesn't forget the boots. So
I think-
the idea here is that Stefano will use the snatch to draw, arsenal that card, and then hope that, ooh, okay, he is using the mask here. So decides to use the mask on this turn rather than waiting for the Art of War to come back up. This will shuffle the deck as well, which is relevant because he was due to draw back into the Art of War that he pitched earlier in the game. So now the deck is going to be completely shuffled. He's making something here. Yeah. I'm really interested to see what he decides to fetch with the links, because he can always finish with the snatch. There's going to be something with go again, unless he's going to arsenal the snatch. Yeah, okay.
So Arsenal snatch. Bring in that Lava Burst.
Yep.
And what's the benefit of bringing in the Lava Burst here at the end of the
Damage.
Damage.
Damage. The only thing is that the snatch, he no longer has the Snapdragon Scalers to give snatch go again, so he will always have to finish with the snatch, but that's not the end of the world.
So Stefano very much saying here,
Gets a whole hand block from George.
you're coming down to my level.
That was a really good turn from Stefano. A really
That's
good
exactly what he needed at
I
this
liked-
stage in the game.
I'm not sure how I feel about the fetching of the Lava Burst, but I suppose it was basically saying, if I come in with a snatch, he could just Crown of Providence and one card block it, and then I don't have an arsenal. This way I guarantee I have an arsenal, have another 5-card turn. However, George
George.
has the perfect answer, which is 6 damage on a stick and 2 more with the Bloodrock Pox token, which is basically the only card that he could use to push 7 damage off the Tunic resource. So perfect response here from George.
Presented lethal.
This is a pro Azuri player playing right here. He was like, okay, I'm going to whole hand block because I know you're gonna have to give me a card.
Yeah.
And if he blocks 3 here, he takes 3 from this attack, goes down to 4, takes 2 from the Bloodrot Pox. He's on 2.
Yeah.
Really good turn from Stefano, but really good slap back from George. Perfect response. That's the power of this one card. Essentially a one cost deal 8.
6, yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. We'd love to see it, folks. We have less than 8 minutes left on the round. Stefano blocking.
This is a smashing game. And we see, look what he has. He's got the Art of War. Did do a shuffle, though, of course. So wasn't pitch stack, this one.
Stefano down to
he blocks
6.
for 2.
Down to 3.
Stefano is going to go down. Oh, he decides to give him the frailty token.
George, again, even at the,
smart.
Potentially the dying embers of the game.
Prevents 2 damage, yeah.
Yeah, but he's also, he's still playing patiently. He's still saying, I'm not, it's fine.
The thing is, Sean, for Azuri, 3 life and 1 life are very similar. I mean, 1 life is obviously great because now your spider spites, your knives are presenting lethal, but he knows he's going to have to do a big block this turn, so he might not have the resources to swing his weapons. But if Stefano is on 3 and he manages to keep 2 cards, he can always present, I'm going to kill you with Azuri's swap in a 6 attack on my 3.
Yeah. And Trip, what's the significance then, do you think, of Stefano not having any equipment here, whereas George essentially has like another 3 life on the table, right?
It's more the... Oh, that's some really bad draws. Is it? What did he get on the other card?
So he's got an ancestral...
What's the other card? It's not a Blaze Headlong, is it? Hard to see. All the 5 cards look the same. Oh my gosh. Disaster. Absolute disaster.
Mounting Anger?
Breaking Point does not have Go Again. He's not going to be able to give this Go Again. Oh, did he go again with the Art of War? Oh, the Soul Read from Stefano. We didn't go for the +1, he went for the Go Again. Did he know that was on top of the deck? I guess he knew the Snatch was in Arsenal, so that doesn't work. Unfortunately, that only works on Ninja cards. Disaster again.
Oh, Stefano.
Yeah, and that's rough. Unfortunately, that's rough.
Oh.
So actually, that's going to be a dead card. So 5 Go Again. Hey, he got the Soul Read on the. I guess he was playing it because he knew he had the Snatch in Arsenal. Yeah, I get it. But still, it feels good, doesn't it? But unfortunately, gonna have to pitch away the Ancestral there to attack with a weapon.
Emberblade coming in for 2 as a result of the frailty, and then Snatch coming in for 3.
Yep. Easy block here from George.
George now has a Warmongers. He's got a Sensor.
He's probably just going to go Dagger into Sensor on his turn and block this out with the Sync, but he might actually choose to block with... Yeah, exactly. He's going to choose to block with Equipment. Yeah, that was a really rough draw. At least he was saved by the Go Again from the Art of War, but then not being able to play the Ancestral on either of his cards is a disaster there, because that could have really helped him out a lot, an extra card in hand, rather than essentially... I mean, it allowed him to pitch for Emberblade, but you want so much more than that.
So, at this stage, would you say George is still very much...
Yeah, good point.
He's comfortable, he's in the driving seat.
Yep. Yeah, he is, very much so. Well, Stefano's on the back foot. He's being able to put on a lot of pressure here with just 2 cards. With 3 cards, sorry, because he used his equipment in the end. He's going to develop a defense reaction in the arsenal to keep him even more safe. A few people in the comments saying, the odds of the Art of War being bad was pretty high. It was. They did shuffle the deck a little bit, but having seen what's in Stefano's deck, like lots of defense reactions, lots of cards without Go Again. We've got Breaking Point, we've got Snatch, we've got all sorts of stuff that doesn't have Go Again naturally. Yeah. There's probably Assault the Wound in there somewhere as well. And then Adam saying, yeah, George chose Frailty over the Blood Watch because of the Snatch. Yeah, this is the quality that George plays at, is that he's like, well, I know that I can shut down that Snatch with my equipment at this point, or I can use a card if I create that. As we were saying, doesn't need to push Stefano down to 1 health, because he can always just threaten lethal at 3 with the Azuri swap in. Or force a 2-card block from Stefano every single turn now that he's on 3 health.
And George is able to present that 1 damage from the spider's bite into the lethal on the sensor and then still be able to Arsenal. He's just sitting quite comfortable here, isn't he?
This is George's game to lose right now. Stefano is down to just one card here. George sitting very happy on 8 health, and yeah, as Kiki pointed out, it was indeed a Phoenix Flame in hand. So that's now gone in the arsenal, and he's drawn into an Art of War, and he's on 2 health. So it's going to be a tricky one for Stefano. These Art of Wars have actually really ruined his day this game. He has played one quite ineffectively, I would say, and the other ones were just clunking up his arsenal and his hand at the worst possible times. It's the trouble when you've got Art of Wars, defense reacts, all in the same deck. We're saying about they all want to be in the arsenal. They're clogging up hand space. They're making these awkward hands. It's like Stefano's got too much in his deck that is not an attacking card. Fi wants to attack, and when you don't have attacking cards, your hero is a bit odd. Stefano on 1 health. George being able to fully utilize the space that he's got from the previous turn with a go again, looking for scrap, coming in for 5. Going to be really awkward for Stefano to block this too. It's looking like this might be all she wrote, because I do see a spicy shred in George's hand. Stefano, I think this game is lost. Going to throw down some cards to block here, and George going to probably end his day.
What did we say about blues? They're good if you can pitch them, and they're good if you can play them.
What game?
Fantastic.
Might do something clever here with the Art of War. Try and block with the card from Arsenal. 2 minutes left in the game.
It's almost George planned this game to a T. Let's see what Stefano has remaining. He's going to play out the Art of War.
He's going to try to draw into more blocking cards here. Got another breaking point. Too many cards without go again as well. We've seen 3 snatches, 3 breaking points. And yeah, like Bob says, it did feel like Stefano was just playing without an arsenal for the majority of the game, and he never got to use that Art of War well. He never got value out of it. So he basically designed. Someone pointed out earlier, it's like he's playing IP1 for the game, IP -1, but he never got the reward for it. Never got the reward for keeping that Art of War in arsenal so long. Managed to make something happen with his pouncing links, but only really got George down to 8 health. George was able to shut everything down with a well-timed frailty token to make the snatch very ineffective on the next turn.
I mean, the one turn that Stefano was able to pop off.
So this is blocking for 7, because I believe he's probably given everything +1/+1. And the shred comes down, and that's game. 30 seconds to go. Was that what you expected from the Zuri game? A full 55-minute game. Beautiful. I just want to say that was such fantastic play from George. That was really, really nice. Azuri. Really nice Azuri play. What we expect from top 4 of calling Birmingham. Got knocked out to Pablo, which is no sad thing. But George plays that deck so well. Fantastic. Thank you for joining DT. We're down to just 1 DT now. Have a nice sleep.
And we're only just settling in, but we just saw Fi just wasn't really able to ignite in that game.
No, he wasn't, and it was we kind of just saw it was like someone decided, Dan, do you want to see Fi not play to like super powerful turns 2 games in a row? It's like they know I'm a Fi player. They know what I don't want to see. You want to see Fi doing crazy stuff. But we said this earlier. It's like it's a tough game for Fi. Like I think Fi can do okay into Azuri. Azuri does really well though. Azuri's got tools that they use to take down Lexi, and those tools work really, really well for Fi as well. So yeah, props to Stefano. Stefano's a really strong player, plays in our local London meta. Very good player of the game. Could definitely bring it back. He's on 1-1. Going into the draft, anything can happen.
Absolutely. Now, you said though that we've got 3 rounds of CC before we go into that Monarch draft later on this afternoon. So the significance of if you've only prepared for CC, how are you really going to be able to perform at the end of the day, or what can you expect at the end of the day if you haven't been practicing your Monarch?
You got to find opportunities to practice your draft, but at the end of the day, like the draft is really good for getting you to day 2. Draft is there, it gets you to day 2 in a good position. But CC is what's going to take you to the end. CC is what you're going to play in the top 8. That's going to get you the win. If you want to win the whole tournament, you got to do really well. But the draft's coming up. We got 1 more game of CC. We'll hopefully get a maybe we'll have a game without a ninja.
Without a fight.
It is the UK meta. We gotta have our ninjas in there, right? So
Lovely.
So yeah. Oh, Tarantine Saturday.
Great game.
Mate, we're
Great
working right now. What can we say?
Great game.
So stick around, guys. We're gonna have another interview with the winner, as we do on Pushbot Tabletop 24 Baz the Bard. We get the interviews in during the break, so you guys are not sitting around twiddling your thumbs. We're gonna give you stuff to watch and stuff to do. So stick right with us.
Absolutely.
We've not got too long, so we're gonna wrap, and we'll see you in Game 3 very shortly.
Welcome back to the UK Nationals. I'm Baz the Bard, and I've been joined by George Keys, top 4 in the call in Birmingham.
Yes, yeah.
Slow, methodical, some might say surgical, that was. I thought it was going to be quite a quick game.
Yeah,
and
that
was really, really good.
Yeah. No, you've had a lot of the defensive tools, which is cool, and you kind of kept the game going for a long time. But I think kind of got a foothold early on, so it was.
You seem to see that he had a lot of defense reactions. He was playing flip flaks, he was playing sink belows.
Yeah.
And then
one reinforce, I think. Yeah, sneaky. Yeah. These ninja players, you got to look out for
like
them.
He wants to be a dash player. But it was good. I mean, you were coming in with sort of like the shakedowns and the deft touches, and then you kind of just went, he's just got defense reactions galore, and then you switched your plan up, command and conquer, and that really made him struggle.
Yeah. There was one turn especially where I managed to do which is the dream always, is have the spider spike into the command and conquer, and it's just like there's no good blocks for him. Particularly Fight doesn't block that great to begin with, and I think he did have the DB acting arsenal, so yeah, just catch him out.
I think you were really kind there because he did commit his block, and then then when you went for 4, he went and then he played the next card, and it was still leaking 1.
Yes,
and
yeah.
You let him take it all
I know.
Like, blimey, that's not the cutthroat.
I would have definitely been in trouble had I then lost that game, because people would have been very upset. But
it did allow him a big turn.
He did,
You saw your life. Like I was like, have you made a massive mistake there and allowing the 4
To be fair, a couple of times he was like on top of the spider spike reducing the block. So I don't know. I just can't do it. I can't be like, no, commit to those vlogs, get a judge over here. Like, it was all right. It was all right.
It's a shame we haven't got a microphone on the table. You're such a nice guy.
Thank you very much.
And then every time you are so clear on when you're playing your card. You play the card, say the name, saying what it's coming in for. What
forget the dice a lot of the time.
Yeah,
but we're working on that. We're working on that.
But even confirming the damage afterwards, it's like, for me who's running sort of like the health and everything, it's like a dream.
Well, that's all I want, mate. I want to make your life as easy as possible, because I know all the great work you guys are doing. So I'm like trying to do my bit. Keep it
Thank
real.
you.
Yeah.
So you feel in a good place with Azuri?
I love Azuri. So yeah, I think she's got a lot of decent matchups into the aggro decks. As long as you keep finding them. I mean, I had a fatigued Dorinthia at my first match, which is a bit spooky.
Nathan Hill.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
He plays local.
Oh right, okay. Yeah, no, it's a really sick game. Like I was down to tiny little bit of deck at the end, but yeah, no, it's I'm just comfortable on Azuri. I haven't played that as much as I probably should have coming up to this event, so I thought stick with what you know, find the Lexis. Get it done.
Top 4 the calling, mate.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
what you know.
Exactly. Yeah, it's worked already. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, right. So we're going to get ready for round 3. Stay tuned. Push Point guys will be back with the commentary. All right.